Hey, what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I'm going to share with you guys the series that I want to try to finish within the next year. So this is going to be, something I'm just going to try to check up with, by the end of 2019 to see if I actually ever did this, because over the last several years, I have started several different series that I have been wanting to finish for a long time, but a lot of things have come up, like I've gotten invested with other series or other books, and I just have not been able to finish them. So I wanted to at least make a list here of the series I've started and have wanted to continue with, because some of them are ones that I haven't picked up in probably almost 2 years, and it's about time that some of them I finish, because they're ones that I really want to get invested in still, and or there are new books coming out here pretty soon, or they are completed and I should just finish them. But, things like my TBR jar get in the way, because there are books in my TBR jar that may not necessarily fall into those series that I want to also try to read. So I'm just going to try to make it a priority maybe this year to pick at least one book in my TBRs for series, and I try to do that with my biannual Bibliothon TBR, which I will be showing you guys here in the next couple weeks, and I really try to make it so that I had more of my sequels put in there and less new books or rereads within that TBR. So the first one is the Grisha Trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. I read Shadow and Bone over the summer, and I really liked it a lot, and this is a series I've heard a lot of good things about, and I was not disappointed in the slightest when I read through this book. And especially since I know that Leigh Bardugo is coming out with King of Scars in 2019, which I think is a companion novel to the Grisha Trilogy specifically, not so much the Six of Crows duology, but the Grisha Trilogy itself. I really want to try to finish this so I can see where this one particular character, Nikolai, comes in, because I don't think I've met him as of yet. Either that, or that's the name of the Darkling, and I didn't catch it. The next series I want to try to finish in its entirety, and maybe even see if I can get through a couple other series within the world, is The Mortal Instruments. So I read City of Ashes earlier this fall. I think it was probably either September or October I read it. I can't remember off the top of my head. I have the third book though in a paperback, and I really do like this story a lot. I think I enjoy it a lot more than I originally thought I would, because when I listened to the audiobook of City of Ashes, I just really got invested with it, and then as I continued to read the paperback version of it, because I was kind of doing double duty with it, I really enjoyed reading through the story and learning more about what exactly is going on, and especially with Queen of Air and Darkness that just came out earlier in December. I really want to read the Infernal Devices series and the Dark Artifices and all of the short stories and all that stuff, because I am a huge fan of authors who can really flesh out a world and really play into it as much as they can and find ties between characters and stuff like that. I think it is just so creative, and it really just gives the world so much more depth that I'm so interested in being able to read through all of it, despite the fact that there's a lot of it. Kind of the drawback of building a vast world like this is the fact that there's so much to talk about, that there's so many books that you have to get through. The next series I want to try to finish is the Matched series by Ali Kandi. This is the second book across. I have the first book on my iPad, on my Kindle app, and I don't even think I've read this one, to be honest. I think I've only read the first one, but I really liked Matched a lot. I really enjoyed the story. I loved the idea that was going on with it, and I felt like I was understanding what was at stake for the main character. I think this is one of those books that I have not picked up in like 2 years, and so I really want to try to get back into it, but I remember enough of the first book to where I feel like I could be comfortable going into this one and not feeling completely lost with it. And I want to get back into some dystopia-esque stories, because I really do like those. I like those kind of stories a lot. It's a lot of what got me into reading in the first place, and I want to really just see how this one ends, because I don't know. Next is the To All the Boys I've Loved Before trilogy by Jenny Han. I fell right in love with To All the Boys I Loved Before when I read it in, I think, like either July or August. I think it might have been July. I think it was during the biannual Bibliothon. I just fell in love with the story. I fell in love with Lara Jean as a character, and Peter and Josh, and I need to know how the story continues, because the end of this book made me really sad, but also kind of hopeful for what's to come. And from what I know, John Ambrose McLaren comes in the second book a lot more, and I want to see how that plays out because he's a character we didn't really get to see much of in this one. The next series I want to try to finish is the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Carrie Maniscalco. I started this also during the Biennial Bibliothon, and I loved this book so much. It was so much better than I expected, and I have Haunting Prince Dracula. Escaping from Houdini came out earlier this year in like March, I think, and I know that Carrie is finishing up with the fourth and final installment of it, so I would like to try to finish the series before that final book comes out so that I can figure out what the heck happens, because I know that the relationship between Audrey and what is his name? I can't remember the boy's name. What is his name? Thomas. That's what it is. Thomas. I know that their relationship blossoms so much more in Haunting Prince Dracula specifically, and I just want to see how it blooms because I love these two so much. They're such a great couple in partnership and in romantic ways as well, and I just love Audrey as a character. She's so headstrong and so interesting that she's very much a feminist character for me, and I really, really enjoy that, especially since this is in a time period where that kind of stuff did not fly very easily. Next is the Renegades series by Marissa Meyer. I got Archenemies for Christmas, and so I'm very excited to be able to get to that soon. It's on my desk right now, along with a bunch of other books that I've gotten over the last few months, and I just loved this series so much. I read this about around the 4th of July, and I just ate through this book. It was the perfect mix of like Avengers and X-Men, and I just loved it so much. I loved Nova as a character. I thought she was so complex and interesting, and she's fighting for her own reasons as opposed to fighting for other people's reasons. And I also loved the world that we were in, the idea of the trial that she had to go through, and understanding what is really at the core of the story. And then the ending of this one just blew my mind about what I knew with the story. It's like the story took you down one path that you thought was right, and then it made all of a sudden a very sharp left turn into God knows where that you didn't expect, and now it's making me question everything about this book. And I'm so excited to read Archenemies, and I know that the third and final book of this series is supposed to come out late 2019, so I want to try to get through Archenemies so that I can get that last one and have it complete, because this is a wonderful, wonderful story, and I can't get enough of it. The next series is the Dorothy Must Die series by Danielle Page. I read this book here probably almost a year and a half ago. I can't exactly remember. It's been quite a while, I know, though. And when I did read this, I really liked it. I loved the story a lot. I was interested in it because I loved The Wizard of Oz, and I loved how Danielle Page really like turned the whole story on its head with making it a story of like what happened if Dorothy never left. I ended up buying the rest of the series around my birthday this past summer, and so I have them all. I just need to be able to actually get through them. And I even have the collection of short stories that are within the world too by Danielle Page, and I just want to see what happens with the rest of the story because I was so intrigued with how it went that I was like, how is this going to end? How is this going to continue? What's going to happen to Amy? What's going to happen to Dorothy? And all these other characters that are involved with the story. The next series is a series I have literally been working through since my senior year of high school and have put off reading for a long time just because I've been distracted by so many other books that I've wanted to read. And that's the Alex Cross series, which is really surprising for me because of the fact that the Alex Cross series is the series that got me into writing my mystery novel, which, you know, is something I've been working on for the last 4 years. And I read the last book in this series about almost 2 years ago, maybe about a year and a half ago, and I don't really remember what exactly happened, and I feel like that's really bad of me, but this is the next book in the series. It's high time I get back to this because I do love this series a lot, and there are so many more books that I think James Patterson is still coming out with, and I just need to get through it. I just really want to see his character progression and understand what he is able to do as the story goes on, and then that way hopefully I can try to see how I can implement that within my own novel, because I really would like my main character in my mystery novel to have a good character progression, but I want to see how Alex is before I finish it. The next series is the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series by Ransom Riggs. The last book, A Map of Days, came out I think in September or so, like it was in the early fall at least. And this was a series I really liked. I read the first one here when I first started my channel, and I loved it. I really liked the series a lot. It was a series that a lot of my friends had told me about as I was growing up in high school, and I just have never gotten back to reading the rest of it. I don't know why. It's just a series that I never got around to go back to, but there's so much that I want to know. I want to know more about this world that the main character falls into and how it's happened, why he's able to go between, and what else is at stake now that, you know, things have happened since this story. And especially with the Map of Days now being out and the series, I think, being completed, I need to know how it all ends. The next one is the Asylum series by Madeline Drew. This one I think I started before I started my channel. I think I started this maybe my freshman year of college, and it's kind of dark and twisted. It's basically about these teenagers. They go to this camp in like the middle of nowhere in this little dinky town at a boarding school that used to be a mental asylum like several years before. And while these kids are there, they're experiencing these weird things happen. They're seeing things. They're seeing weird messages happen across the walls. They're basically learning about the history of this place and understanding that it's a very dark and dangerous place. And I really loved it. It was creepy. It was dark. I think I actually may have read it just before I read the Miss Peregrine series. And it made it so much easier for me to get into that series because it's got a very similar format where Miss Peregrine has kind of some pictures here and there along with maybe like news clippings and stuff. And this does as well. It's got like so many different pictures of things from this actual place that the author had used as inspiration for the story. And I just really like it, and for some reason I never got back to it. I think I have almost the whole series though, so I just need to get back to it. And I don't even remember honestly if I read the second book or not, because it's been so long since I read the story that I don't even remember if I've read past the first book. The next series is one that is going to be very hard for me to get to because of the fact that I know it is going to piss me off and make me cry so much, because I've heard so many people tell me it's been that way when they've read it. And that is Reading A Reaper at the Gates, the third installment of the Ember in the Ashes series by Sabaa Tahir. I love this series so much. I read the first two books basically almost back to back at the beginning of the summer, at the end of the spring semester this past year, and when I finished the second book, I immediately had to go to the bookstore and get a hard copy of it and get a hard copy of A Reaper at the Gates, because I knew I wanted to read it very soon and I wanted to make sure I had it so that when I went to read it, I didn't have to go hunt it down or anything. And I knew that it was at this Walmart that was not far from my home. So I grabbed it. I haven't read it though yet because, like I said, it's going to piss me off so much because I know that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to die in this, and I'm not ready for that. I nearly cried my eyes out at the end of A Torch Against the Night. I don't know if my heart is ready to be broken just yet, but at the same time, I know that Sabaa does what she does only to make people upset, and that's her intention, and I just... Ugh. And last but not least, the final series I want to finish is the Merciless series by Daniel Vega. I loved the first book so much. I read it when I was a senior in high school, and I never got around to finishing it for some reason because I didn't even know that it was going to be a full-fledged series until probably about a year ago. And when the last book came out, I think earlier this year, I made it a point to go get that and make sure that I had the rest of the series so that when I got to read it, I would have everything there and I could just go boom, 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 finish the series, finish it off. So there you guys go. Those are all of the series I want to try to finish at some point this year. Whether or not that's going to happen or not is a complete mystery to me. I don't know if I'm going to actually do it or not. It's going to depend on, you know, what happens this year. But they are at least something that I want to try to do, a goal that I want to try to get to, or at least make progress towards within this next year. So let me know what you guys think about what I might be able to do this. I think I may try to set aside a specific book each month if I'm not particularly doing a readathon that I can, you know, designate for a specific series, like continuing with the series or whatever. I am doing still a reread series of one of my favorite books, and then I have my TBR jar, and then I do want to try to maybe see if one of the books I read is something, you know, that's part of a series I want to read. I don't quite know. Give me your guys' ideas about what I should do with this, and let me know if you know of any readathons that are going on throughout the year, because I know of a couple, but I mostly want to focus with like the biennial bibliothon that happens in the winter and in the summer. But if you know of other readathons that happen over the course of the year, let me know down in the comments below so that I may be able to check them out and see if I can build a TBR for them before they start, so I can maybe see if some of my sequels can fit in there. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit the button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!